Hello, welcome to Wilde Thoughts. I'm Tim Wilde, and I'm here to give you my thoughts on the latest movies that I've seen. And I've not been around doing movie reviews for quite a while. As I looked at my library, it's been a couple of years since I've been here. So I'm excited to get back engaged and to be on a platform where I can tell you my critiques and concerns and complaints and praises for movies that are good. And tonight we'll be talking about I almost want to say Walking Dead, because that's how I felt by the end of the movie. This is The Long Walk. As I watched this movie, I felt like this should have been called The Long Take, or The Long Sit, or The Long Plotline, The Long whatever. This was a slow movie, but we're going to do a full review on it. I'm going to give you my critique on it, and I'm going to talk about some things that I picked up out of it that I thought were really insightful social commentaries on everything, especially the things that have been going on the last couple of months, 6 months, couple of years. It's been a while. Long since Stephen King wrote this movie. I don't know what date it was. I don't care. Long time ago. But anyway, it's a movie. I didn't know what it was until a couple of weeks ago. My son asked me to buy him tickets so he could go watch it with his girlfriend. They went and saw it, and he said, "Dad, you should watch it." So I was like, well, I haven't watched movies according to my library for like 2 years. So I decided to do it. And I watched it, and he went with me, and I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed watching a movie. I want to talk about some things I noticed, and this is going to be a little bit rusty for my normal reviews, for my formula and everything. I'm not going to be quite as insightful maybe as I used to be about the filmings and the filmmaking process and all that stuff and the things I observed and enjoyed. But I'm still going to give it my rating. I have my 5 categories. It's going to be based on the story, the characters, the sound and the music, the cinematography, my favorite, and then special effects. Each one will get a score of 1 or 2, just because it's been so long since anyone's heard my system here. You can get a 0.5, 1, 1.5, or 2. And then that gives me a total of 10 with up to 2 with each category. Anyway, so just going through that really quick. I'm not going to tell you about it. There's going to be spoilers. I'll give you my quick assessment of the score without spoilers, and then I'm going to go into some details about things I picked up out of it. Anyway, so the first thing is the story. This is a story. Well, do I need to tell you what the story's about? I guess I could. I don't know how well I know what the story's about, because we all know I'm really dumb with plot. But this is the story. It's written by the guy, or whatever, made by the guys that did the Hunger Games, right? I think. And it has a very similar vibe to it, except for my thing is, this is a movie about they get a bunch of kids that they say they all volunteer. There's this huge cash prize, and all they got to do is just walk on a paved road surrounded by tanks and gunners for as long as they can. And it took them 2.5 hours to get to the end of this movie. That's 2:10. And I felt like I had gone on a 3-day trip with these boys by the end of it, because holy cow, it's exhausting. But they go on this long trip, and then apparently it's supposed to be televised, and in this desolate world with very few people on the streets and everything, maybe they all live somewhere else. They're watching it, and it's supposed to be like motivational for them, and they're supposed to this is kind of like their post a big war that happened, that they are this is like their entertainment and how they can kind of make peace with all the damage and the death and everything that happened, something like that. I was trying to have a hard time getting into it, because when I watched what these kids were doing and trying to consider that people started lining up on the side of the roads later on with celebrating who their favorites were and all that stuff, all they're doing is walking. And I was watching this thinking if I had to watch this movie for 2 hours, and I'm watching it for cinematography and the music and the impact and the emotion of watching these kids and everything, and the performance and acting. I'm watching this as a film. They would be watching this as live reality TV for 3 days, and it was boring. These kids are not energetic. They're not engaged. And it's are they zoomed in on the same characters with all the cameras that they can watch and listen to them and get to know their growth? It didn't make any sense. This would be the most boring waste of time for anyone to watch. Hunger Games, if that was real, not that this was real, but if in Hunger Games, at least you're watching some kids on adventures and trying to kill each other. It's all morbid and horrible, of course. But at least I see the entertainment value with those psychos in the District 1, or the capital of Hunger Games. But this is all these poor, miserable people watching these kids just walk. Why would you do that? It was so boring. That's a long take. people trying to watch a new series, and if they can't enjoy it after 3 episodes, they don't watch the rest of the series. You have no idea what these kids are going to go through and which ones are going to go crazy and kill themselves. And I'm sure you can watch the highlights on the news or on YouTube later on. So I don't see what the point is of watching the entire thing. It didn't make sense. I didn't understand the fascination with these kids watching why this would make sense even in this world. Hunger Games, I kind of get. It's grotesque and horrible, but I understand. It's a whole gladiator kind of a vibe. This, I don't get it. But anyway, that's not what this movie was. The movie wasn't about entertainment and adventure. This movie was about, I feel, a big commentary on society, and there's a lot of things that I picked out. I'm sure people can do extended reviews and talk about these things. I'm sure you could go and do research about what Stephen King had in mind and everything. I don't know. I don't care. I don't have that much interest in it, but there was things that were really fascinating. But the story itself, in my rating, the story, how it was told, pacing and everything, the plot devices, setups and payoffs, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to give it a 1.5. Obviously this movie is not supposed to be an entertainment. It's not going to be you can break it down to a 3-act structure and everything like that with the hero's journey and everything. It's a tragedy. It's horrible to watch, but it's really well done as far as the story and what is doing. You have your quick setup. You launch them right into the walk. You throw in there just enough information about the rules, and then you know which kids are kind of bonding, and you got kind of this what's the name of the movie, or the Lord of the Flies kind of a thing going on, where they're in their little group moving on. There's a little bit of tribalism happening there, but not much. Anyway, you're just watching it, and if you're in for that journey, the story is told pretty well. The only thing is, I felt like they launch you and then they introduce a kid. They have one quick conversation with him. There'll be like a conversation where they set up like what the turn is, or what their challenge is going to be later, or their attitude is going to be later, or whatever the switch is, or whatever the lesson they're going to learn. And then they'll have one more conversation, and then that's it. Now they're starting with 40 kids or something like that, and there's like 15 or 10 like regular main characters, not main, but named characters. And so by the time you get all the way through it, you are I don't know, invested. I guess you could say invested, but I don't know. The story, getting these characters out there and get them on their journey, I didn't think there was that much excitement or anything in telling the story. You could say it was dry and boring in the pacing, but that's what it was trying to accomplish. I'll give it praise for that. That's why average, it just gets the job done. That would be a 1 for story. I gave it a 1.5. I wasn't mind blown on anything, but I think it was very well executed for what they're trying to do. Characters, I just kind of said my criticism out. I think the characters were pretty, I would say that they are kind of one note, whatever the phrase is. But I don't know. I think they all adapted. They all evolved. The ones that were kind of brats in the beginning kind of melted down and were kind of softer in the end. The ones who were a lot harder and kind of bullying each other and things like that, a lot more arrogant, they kind of softened up towards the end and became dependent on other people. So I think it was really interesting things that were done with the characters, even though I can't remember any of their names. But the ones that you knew were going to be the heroes were the heroes. The ones that you knew were going to die were going to die. The ones you knew were going to die quick died quick. But yeah, I think the characters were done really well. I don't know. The only thing against it is, like I said, they introduced, they had a line or two, one scene, and then the turn, and then that was it. So I'm going to give it a 1.5, which is still better than average. It was very well done. I just wasn't floored or blown away by the characters. I don't think any of the characters really stood out, honestly. Their decisions and their their choices and their heroisms were fine, but these weren't interesting characters, and they weren't supposed to be. That's one thing I liked about Hunger Games. The same way they cast kids that looked like regular kids. They didn't cast kids that looked like Hollywood kids, and this worked that way as well. It kind of helped you soak into the reality of it. Special effects, I'm going to give that a 2. This movie it wasn't supposed to be about anything, big moments or big things like that, but the gore was gory. And it's not just about having a lot of gruesome gore. Some of the gore was done off screen. Some of the stuff was, I mentioned to my son, there was a couple of shots where they're walking away from the corpse or from where they're about to execute some of the background. They're all blurred out in the background and you're just focused on the characters. But just the detail of just watching when they shoot, and you can barely see the image, you're not seeing anything gruesome, But when they shoot the kid, you see a little splash of blood, just the mist, just pixelated in there. Those kind of things in the right moments were done so well that you didn't need to have like gore like you would with like a zombie movie or something like that. That you can have artistic ways of doing things where things were off camera. Sometimes it was just the bullets that you heard or whatever. Sometimes there were kids, they opened fire on them, and sometimes it showed the I don't want to be too graphic, but like faces shot in different angles, and sometimes you can see the exit wounds. I'll just leave it there. But it was really good. It was really good. And it's not just about, can you make it look realistic and just show me lots of gore? I felt they were tasteful. The ones that showed with more gruesomeness, is that a word? Were done, and they just showed it. They let you see it because there was an impact it was supposed to have, especially the first couple. Kids that's feet were starting to bleed and things like that, when they were having a hard time, when they were sick. This goes into special effects for me. When they were like, there was snot and there was snarling, when they were sweating, when they were when it was raining, like all that stuff, like it really just pulled you into their world, that you really felt like, oh my gosh, you felt like you were walking on this road with them. And that was one of the hard enduring challenges I had watching this movie, but that's what the point was. That was what it was for. So special effects, I'm going to give it 2. It was just a home run. Music. Okay. This one's tricky for me because there's not much music in this movie, but it's intentional. And I think it should get a 2 for the way they did the music, because there's not very much music. The thing with this film, if you watch it, there's a couple of chimes in the beginning. It's kind of, Hunger Games kind of starts this way too. I feel there's a lot of Hunger Game kind of tone in here. But the way the way this one starts, there's a teeny little music when they first start the movie. And then there's a scene with the kid, the main character and his mom, and he's getting set up to go join the kids for their walk. And then there's like not much music until they start on the walk. And then there's this little like adventure, like the Fellowship of the Ring leaving Rivendell kind of a thing. And then it cuts to them just walking. And as they're walking, they're just talking, and there's no distraction and there's no music. It's just them. And so you feel like you're walking with them, and it's so boring, but it's interesting. It's not interesting, but that sounds like a contradiction, but I'm just saying that the whole point of the music and the score was that you didn't hear music until something happened. I don't mean just big music, until you're supposed to feel something. When something sad happened or tragic happened, the music would kick in. But since you hadn't heard music for a 15-minute conversation leading up to the music kicking when something happened, it was more impactful. And I don't think every movie should be like that. But for this movie, where you're supposed to be really just channeled in with what these kids are experiencing from their perspective, the music was very overwhelming when it cued in. If there was like a lot of action or like an explosion, I don't even explosion, but just like some radical crazy thing that just happened, some kid that just got killed or whatever, some rash decision that someone made, the music just hit you. And and it was obviously a little bit better because we're in the theater. That kind of it made that a little more satisfying, but like the music was very well done. I got to give it a 2. I don't know if I would. I wasn't thinking that. It's not that it was good music or memorable music, but just the use of the music and the way they used it for this story, I think was just brilliant. And so I think it gets a 2. Cinematography. Here we go. There is not much cinematography in this movie, but again, that's intentional. When you watch this movie, there'll be like a really creative shot of them watching like the sunset or a cow or something like that, or they're watching their feet or something, and you're like, well, that's interesting. And then it cuts right to just a picture, a shot from them from the front or from behind if they turn around to talk to people behind them. And then there's just a camera walking with them, and so you're just sitting there. It's like you're turning around watching these kids talk the entire time. And there's nothing interesting with the camera work. There's nothing interesting with like any visuals or long distance or anything like that for the most part, until they get to the end of a scene. While they're talking, you're just staring right at them. And then at the end of the scene, it'll be a glorious shot of something, of either a transition or a sign that they read, or again, kids dying in the background, or some impact or something happening with other characters. But the music and those creative shots all happen together when you're not supposed to be paying attention to the dialogue. When you're listening to the kids' dialogue, there's no music and the shot is just on them walking. It makes for a very slow movie. But again, you're supposed to feel this mundane, boring experience. And when you're feeling that, oh, you just want to kill yourself, and you just kind of wish that you had a soldier there with a rifle that you could run into and let him take you out of your misery. But anyway, the cinematography, gosh, so I give that a 2. I don't know. I don't think the shots were amazing. I mean, it's not like they were the best shots I've ever seen, but the usage of them gives them high praise. Since they were average shots, very well done, I'm going to give it a 1.5. I don't think I can give it a 2. It's not the most visually exciting or amazing movie, even when they were trying to do creative things. And it was inconsistent too. It was like sometimes it'd be like just glorious shots of the side. And like when they were doing things with their walking, they do a creative shot, but just like one time kind of takes you out of it. For me, I like a little bit of consistency and style throughout the movie. No, I don't mean like between the way they film them talking and the way they cut to different scenes with those transitions, trying to give you a little a vibe there. I just mean what they're doing to transition with the vibe. That kind of thing should be a little consistent for me. So I'm going to give it 1.5. I wasn't overwhelmed. I thought it was very clever. So that's my score. So I got story is 1.5, characters 1.5, special effects 2, music 2, and cinematography 1.5. That makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. There you go. 8.5. That's my score for the long. I don't know why you can see that. I can't see the computer. That is the 8.5. That's my score for The Long Walk, and it was a long walk to get there. So that's my review. No spoilers, but right now I'm going to just go through some things that I thought were really meaningful. Maybe I'll cut this out for a different section of the video, but I wanted to talk about my political or my should I just do that? I'll just do another video. Okay, that's my review. I'm going to do a separate video for the insights and the things I got about in my spoilers review, and we'll just do that. But that's my score, 8.5. Very good movie. I will never watch this again. There's some very interesting things that came out of it. There's a lot of good lessons, I think. Some very dark lessons, but I think the main lesson, well, you know what? You're going to watch my other video to find out what the main lesson is. But it does have an ambiguous ending that I'm not going to reveal. But it's got a lot of heart told through some broken-hearted kids. That's what I'll say about that. Anyway, that's it. That's my review for The Long Walk, and thanks for watching. And I'm really rusty on the intro and the outro, so I'll just leave it there. But thanks again, and like and subscribe or whatever if you want to. I don't care. I will like it, but it's whatever. I'm just here to just share my thoughts because I love doing that. I love the platform. If you want to listen, then you listened, and I thank you for that. So I'll catch you next time on Wilde Thoughts. I'm Tim Wilde. See ya.